Imagine walking through the heart of a bustling city during rush hour. The world is a symphony of overwhelming noise. Horns blare, millions of conversations blur into static, and the sheer velocity of modern life feels like a relentless tidal wave. For the rare personality type known as the INFJ, navigating this world can often feel like walking through a storm without an umbrella. Intuition, their greatest natural gift, does not always start as a superpower. In the beginning, it often feels like just another layer of noise. It manifests as random thoughts, confusing emotional currents, or quiet inner nudges that defy logical explanation. They might feel a sudden wave of sorrow in a crowded room, or a deep sense of hesitation about a person everyone else seems to love. For a long time, the INFJ might believe that they are simply oversensitive. They might try to suppress this inner voice to fit into a society that demands hard facts, spreadsheets, and visible proof. But something magnificent happens when an INFJ stops fighting their nature and learns to master their intuition. That is the moment their entire existence begins to shift in profoundly visible ways. Mastering this gift does not mean ascending to some flawless, mystical state of being. It is far more grounded than that. It means learning to trust the quiet signals that emerge from the soul. It means listening to the gentle whisper of instinct instead of drowning it out with the loud demands of the outside world. It is the arduous but beautiful process of knowing when a gut feeling is born of fear and when it is born of absolute truth. This journey of mastery takes time. It is a quiet revolution of the mind and spirit, but once an INFJ crosses that threshold, they begin to operate on an entirely different frequency. The exhausting cycle of second-guessing themselves slowly fades away. They no longer feel the desperate need to chase the validation or opinions of others. Instead, they begin to flow through the complexities of life with a newfound calm, a crystalline clarity, and an unshakable sense of purpose. This internal transformation is so powerful that it inevitably spills over into the physical world. People around them start to notice a profound change. The INFJ becomes incredibly difficult to manipulate. They stand firmly grounded, rooted in their own reality, and yet they seem vastly more perceptive than ever before. Today, we are going to explore the profound psychological and emotional shifts that occur when an INFJ truly steps into the power of their mastered intuition. These are not mystical illusions, they are practical, life-altering changes that make the INFJ not just more intuitive, but infinitely more whole. Let us begin with the first remarkable change. They develop the profound ability to sense invisible patterns long before they happen. Once an INFJ learns to trust their internal compass, the absolute first thing that becomes undeniably clear is how flawlessly they see the hidden tapestry of life. We are not just talking about recognizing historical trends or predicting the stock market. We are talking about the intricate, invisible threads of human emotion and behavioral patterns. It is akin to stepping back and seeing the entire majestic painting before the artist has even finished mixing the colors on the palette. In Western society, we are heavily conditioned to look only at what is tangible. We want receipts, we want data, we want spoken confessions. But the mastered INFJ operates beyond this. They notice the microscopic details that the rest of the world carelessly ignores. They hear the slight, almost imperceptible change in a colleague's tone of voice. They feel the heavy, sudden silence that drops into a casual conversation. They track the repeated phrases that show up across different stories from different people. All of these seemingly insignificant fragments are quietly collected by the INFJ. In the sanctuary of their mind, these pieces effortlessly assemble into a stunningly accurate blueprint of the future. And once they have observed enough, they can accurately predict where a situation is heading months before it becomes obvious to anyone else. This is not fortune-telling. It is the mastery of observation combined with absolute self-trust. As the INFJ matures, they realize that their initial gut feelings almost always lead to the right conclusion, even if they cannot immediately articulate the logical steps that got them there. They completely stop needing external proof to validate their own perceptions. Instead, they adopt the stance of a quiet observer. They take mental notes and patiently allow the pattern to reveal itself in real time. They might sense a deep fracture in a friendship long before the first argument ever occurs. They will instinctively know when someone is being deceptive, not because of the words that were spoken, but because of the vast, empty spaces of what was left unsaid. They might sense a shifting dynamic in their workplace and begin preparing for a transition that no one else sees coming. When astonished friends ask them how they knew, the INFJ will usually just smile softly and say they simply had a feeling. But behind that simple phrase lies a sophisticated, lightning-fast processing of thousands of silent signals. This pattern recognition becomes their ultimate shield and guide. It empowers them to choose the right companions, gracefully sidestep unnecessary drama, and keep their lives beautifully aligned with their core values. While the rest of the world is busy reacting to the storm, the INFJ is already adapting to the new weather. While others are caught completely off guard, the INFJ is fully prepared. It is never luck, it is sheer, profound awareness. When their intuition is fully awakened, the INFJ stops getting tangled in the petty details of the moment. They zoom out, they see the vast horizon beyond surface-level behaviors. By doing this, they preserve their precious energy and sculpt their own destiny with a quiet, undeniable confidence. This evolution frequently leaves the people in their lives utterly stunned. What was once dismissed as random anxiety or overthinking is now recognized as profound wisdom. The INFJ, who once doubted every step, now gracefully anticipates the wave and repositions their sails long before the wind even changes. The second monumental shift is the fortification of their emotional boundaries. Empathy is the hallmark of the INFJ soul. They possess the rare, breathtaking ability to feel the exact emotional weight of another human being, even when the room is entirely silent. This profound capacity makes them some of the most incredible listeners, friends, and healers on the planet. However, it is also their greatest vulnerability. In their younger years, or before their intuition is trained, an INFJ moves through the world like a sponge. They absorb the grief, the anger, the chaotic anxiety of everyone they encounter. They carry the heavy burdens of strangers and loved ones alike, treating other people's pain as if it were their own flesh and blood. This relentless emotional absorption is deeply exhausting and utterly unsustainable. But when the INFJ finally masters their intuition, a beautiful boundary is born. They learn the vital, life-saving skill of discerning what belongs to them and what belongs to the world. They do not lose their warmth or their deep capacity to feel. Rather, they stop acting as a storage unit for the world's emotional baggage. They begin to see emotional energy as information, not as an identity. Before this magnificent shift, an INFJ might walk into a crowded room and suddenly be hit by a crushing wave of sadness or a spike of adrenaline, immediately assuming that something is wrong with them. But with a masterful, protected intuition, they learn to pause, take a deep breath, and ask themselves one incredibly powerful question. Is this emotion actually mine? That single, quiet question changes the entire trajectory of their lives. It grants them the freedom to sit beside a grieving friend, to be fully present with someone else's sorrow without being swallowed by the ocean of their despair. This does not make the INFJ cold, distant, or unfeeling. Paradoxically, it makes them infinitely more stable and reliable. Because they are no longer drowning, they can actually throw a lifeline to those who are. They can offer crystal clear empathy. They can hold a safe, sacred space for another person's healing journey while fiercely protecting their own inner peace. This delicate, beautiful balance sharpens their intuition dramatically. Because their inner waters are no longer muddy with the emotions of others, their intuitive voice rings out like a clear bell. With these strong boundaries firmly in place, the INFJ becomes remarkably less reactive. They no longer get swept up in dramatic moods that do not belong to them. They easily recognize when someone is projecting their own insecurities, and they politely refuse to take it personally. This newfound boundary transforms their relationships completely. They naturally stop attracting chaotic people. They release the heavy burden of trying to fix everyone they meet. They learn the profound difference between healthy compassion and draining codependency. As a result, they begin to curate a circle of people who deeply respect their emotional sanctuary. The world of the INFJ becomes delightfully quiet in the best possible way. They unlock a powerful, sustainable form of intuition that heals rather than harms. The third astonishing change is that their decisions become quiet, yet fiercely bold. Before claiming their intuitive power, the life of an INFJ is often plagued by crippling indecision. They agonize over choices. They constantly debate with their own instincts. They exhaust themselves by gathering the opinions of everyone they know, desperately trying to find an external guarantee before making a move. They are deeply terrified of making the wrong choice, which often results in painful hesitation, missed opportunities, or staying in situations that slowly drain their spirit. But the moment an INFJ fully aligns with their internal truth, a monumental shift occurs. Their decision-making process becomes incredibly quiet but undeniably powerful. They completely drop the exhausting habit of justifying their existence to others. They stop waiting for a signed permission slip from society to live their own lives. They begin to take action with a calm, silent certainty, even when absolutely no one around them understands the path they are taking. To the outside observer, the INFJ might still appear as the gentle, reflective soul they have always been. But beneath that serene surface flows a river of immense, unstoppable resolve. They no longer sacrifice their own happiness on the altar of people-pleasing. They do not feel the urge to write a massive essay explaining their life choices. They simply feel what is deeply right in their bones, and they follow that true north without any theatrical noise. This does not mean they become reckless or impulsive. In fact, their choices become more deliberate and intentional than ever before. The core difference is the sheer independence of their spirit. Their internal compass is finally loud enough to drown out the expectations of the world. This bravery begins in beautifully small ways. They start saying no with a gentle smile. They quietly distance themselves from relationships that feel like an emotional tax. They walk away from prestigious jobs or societal expectations that do not resonate with their authentic soul. They speak their truth when a situation feels unjust, even if their voice trembles slightly. And soon, this quiet boldness blossoms into massive life changes. They might pack up and move to a new city without a second thought. They bravely close old chapters and open new ones without a trace of fear. They pivot completely in their careers, abandoning safety for alignment. They do these things simply because a quiet, undeniable voice inside them said it was time. They might not have a flawless 10-year spreadsheet planned out, but they no longer require perfect certainty to take the first step. They trust that their choices are anchored in something vastly deeper than pure logic. They are anchored in spiritual alignment. This silent confidence heavily confuses the people who are used to the old, hesitant INFJ. Suddenly, this quiet person is making massive, sweeping life changes without asking for advice. This is the raw power of mastered intuition. It transforms debilitating overthinking into swift, graceful action. It is not loud, it is not arrogant, but it is absolute, firm, and undeniably true. The fourth profound transformation is their uncanny ability to notice hidden opportunities and risks. When an INFJ sharpens their inner vision, their perception of reality expands in ways that feel almost magical to others. They become highly sensitive to the invisible currents of life. Their mind transforms into a highly attuned radar system, constantly scanning beneath the superficial layers of everyday interactions. They pick up on subtle vibrations, fleeting expressions, and energetic shifts that completely bypass the average person. This heightened awareness becomes an incredibly practical tool for navigating life. They begin to spot golden opportunities before they even fully materialize. A seemingly casual comment during a dinner party reveals a massive future collaboration. A subtle, unspoken tension in a group dynamic alerts them to an upcoming conflict. They can feel the trajectory of a new romantic relationship within the first few hours, noticing the microscopic red flags that others eagerly excuse. While friends might tell them they are jumping to conclusions, the INFJ simply knows. The INFJ already sees which doors are preparing to open and which ones are slowly locking shut. This ability appears shocking to outsiders because it looks so entirely effortless. The INFJ is not meticulously analyzing spreadsheets or playing the role of a paranoid detective. They are simply resting in a state of high receptivity. They listen to the music of reality, tone of voice, the timing of a text message, the energy behind a smile. These tiny details weave together into a crystal-clear narrative. Once they fully trust this gift, they can position themselves perfectly in life. They might invest their time in a quiet, overlooked project that later explodes with success. Or, equally important, they will gracefully exit a sinking ship long before the water ever breaches the hull. When questioned about their foresight, they will never have a purely scientific explanation. It is never cold analysis. It is pure, unfiltered awareness. Before mastering this, an INFJ might suppress these warnings to be polite. But once mastered, they let their intuition lead the way, and they find that life becomes remarkably less painful and far more beautifully synchronized. The fifth incredible change is that their rich inner world finally feels profoundly real. It is a well-known truth that INFJs possess an internal universe that is breathtakingly deep. They are profound thinkers, vivid dreamers, and relentless philosophers of the human condition. However, before their intuition is mastered, this magnificent inner world can feel painfully isolated from their external reality. It can feel like a secret, lonely kingdom, a beautiful sanctuary where they hide, feeling as though the harsh, loud world outside could never possibly understand or match the beauty they hold within. But the moment their intuition is fully embraced, a magnificent bridge is built between these two worlds. Suddenly, their inner life is no longer just an escape hatch. It becomes the ultimate source of truth, a guiding light for navigating the physical world. Their daydreams transform into actionable visions. Their deep reflections provide real-time solutions to complex problems. Their inner voice transitions from a whisper of doubt into a resounding, clear directive. Imagination evolves into divine information. They entirely stop apologizing for their depth. They no longer feel the need to shrink themselves to make others comfortable. They cease the painful habit of splitting their identity, pretending to be a simple, surface-level person for society while hiding their true, profound self in the shadows. The inner and outer self beautifully merge into one cohesive, authentic being. The symbols in their dreams, the random phrases that pop into their heads, the sudden memories that resurface, none of these feel random anymore. They are recognized as the universe delivering vital guidance. When the outside world descends into chaos, the INFJ does not panic. They simply retreat into their inner sanctuary, not to hide in fear, but to consult their internal map. This integration brings an overwhelming sense of wholeness. The INFJ stops living life as a fractured soul. They walk into the world carrying something incredibly rare: absolute clarity without a trace of arrogance, profound softness without any confusion, and a majestic, grounded presence. They finally know exactly who they are, and that singular knowing changes everything. The sixth and final culmination of this journey is that the INFJ becomes a radiant source of calm and profound insight for everyone around them. When an INFJ fully embodies their intuitive mastery, the world feels it. You can literally sense the shift in the atmosphere when they enter a room. There is an undeniable groundedness to their spirit. They do not clamor for attention. They do not need to be the loudest voice at the table to prove their worth. But when they do choose to speak, the entire room naturally falls silent to listen. The INFJ begins to radiate an unshakable, foundational calm. This is not the fake, toxic positivity that pretends everything is perfect. It is a deep, resonant peace that comes from an absolute trust in the unfolding of life. Because they trust their own ability to navigate whatever comes, they no longer panic in the face of the unknown. They experience fear and grief like any mortal human, but they are no longer consumed by it. This profound emotional stability turns the INFJ into a magnificent lighthouse in a world full of turbulent storms. Naturally, people begin to gravitate toward them like moths to a gentle, warm flame. Friends, family members, and completely exhausted strangers will find themselves pouring their hearts out to the INFJ. People will often say they do not know why, but simply sitting in the presence of the INFJ makes the heavy burdens of life feel lighter. Colleagues will seek them out for guidance on matters that have nothing to do with work. What is happening is truly a beautiful phenomenon. The INFJ has become a master of seeing the unseen and hearing the unspoken. Because their intuition is sharp and their boundaries are strong, they can offer the rarest gift in the modern world: the gift of truly being seen without an ounce of judgment. They do not rush to fix people. They do not force unsolicited advice down anyone's throat. They simply offer a gentle question, a quiet observation, and the healing power of profound presence. In a society drowning in loud, meaningless noise, the silent understanding of an INFJ is an absolute oasis. This final evolution is often the most surprising to those who have known the INFJ for a long time. The person who once seemed overly sensitive, withdrawn, and prone to overwhelm has seamlessly transformed into the emotional anchor of their entire community. They become the quiet peacekeeper during chaotic conflicts, the one who intuitively knows exactly what is needed before a single word of distress is spoken. The INFJ does not desire the spotlight. Their incredible influence operates beautifully in the background. For the mastered INFJ, this role is never about ego, power, or control. It is the ultimate act of service. They have spent their entire lives wandering through the complex labyrinth of their own soul, learning to decode the language of the unseen now. They use that hard-won wisdom to gently guide others through the dark. When an INFJ trusts their intuition, their inner peace becomes gloriously contagious. It is not just a personal victory. It is a profound transformation that heals a tiny corner of the world. To master intuition is not to become a different person. It is the glorious process of stripping away the noise, the fear, and the societal conditioning to finally become the person you were always destined to be. It is about understanding that the quiet voice inside of you was never crazy. It was incredibly, beautifully wise. When the INFJ stops doubting and starts trusting, life transforms from a series of anxious reactions into a deeply intentional dance. They move with grace. They protect their sacred energy. They connect with souls on a level that most people can only dream of. And they walk through life completely anchored in the profound beauty of their own truth. If you resonate with this journey, let this be your gentle reminder. That quiet, persistent feeling in your chest is not an accident. It is your ultimate compass. You do not need to explain it to anyone who is committed to misunderstanding you. You do not need a spreadsheet to prove that your soul knows the way. All you have to do is take a deep breath, silence the noise of the world, and finally trust the profound wisdom that has been resting inside you all along. May you find the courage to listen to your inner voice, and may it lead you to a place of absolute peace, clarity, and boundless grace.